Catering staff this way, ma'am. The security guard at the Grand Meridian Hotel didn't look at me, didn't see me. He simply pointed a gloved finger toward a dimly lit service corridor, his focus on the tablet in his other hand. His tone was bored, final, the kind reserved for people meant to be invisible in places of polished marble and whispered fortunes. People like waiters, people like cleaners, people he assumed I was. Inside my simple black clutch, tucked between my phone and a lipstick, was a matte black titanium keycard. It bore a single, elegant engraving, a stylized L. It stood for Laurent Hospitality Group, my company, the company that owned the Grand Meridian, 17 other luxury hotels across 3 continents, and the entire penthouse floor where tonight's glittering engagement party was being held. My son's engagement party. What the security guard didn't know, what my future daughter-in-law, Serena Vanderlyn, and her blue-blooded family would never have dreamed, was that the working-class mother they had discreetly exiled was in fact their landlord for the evening, and I had just overheard exactly what Serena thought of me. But before the unraveling, we need the threads. Context is everything. My name is Victoria Laurent. I am 54 years old, and I built a kingdom from sawdust and second chances. People like the Vanderlyns believe wealth is a birthright, a quiet whisper in a vault. My wealth is a roar earned on construction sites. I didn't grow up with stables or sailing lessons. I grew up in a cramped apartment above my Polish grandmother's bakery in Chicago, the scent of rye bread and desperation permanently in the air. At 23, I used every penny I'd saved waiting tables and cleaning offices to buy a derelict 8-room motel off a highway. It had a flickering neon sign and a reputation. 30 years later, that crumbling investment is a $1.4 billion luxury hospitality empire. Forbes has my picture. Boards seek my advice. My son, Alexander, knew this, or so I believed. Then he met Serena Vanderlyn. The Vanderlyns weren't just wealthy, they were curated. Their money was so old it had its own ghostly pedigree, built on timber, railroads, and discreet political patronage. They spoke in hushed tones of legacy and appropriate circles. At our first dinner at their Newport estate, a museum masquerading as a home, Eleanor Vanderlyn greeted me at the door. "Victoria, how lovely to finally meet Alexander's entrepreneurial mother." The pause was a verdict. The dining table could have seated a small nation. Charles Vanderlyn peered over his wine. "And what is it you do, Victoria?" "I founded and run the Laurent Hospitality Group," I said. "Oh, you manage hotels?" Eleanor chirped, as if I'd confessed to running a bingo hall. How hands-on. When I tried to elaborate, Serena placed a gentle silencing hand on her mother's arm. "Mummy, let's not bore Victoria with shop talk. It's so tedious over Coco Van." Tedious, my life's work, dismissed as vulgar commerce. I watched Alexander shrink into his chair, a boy caught between 2 worlds. I saw the soft, patronizing pity in their eyes. The box was dealt, and I was placed inside it. Nouveau riche, tries too hard, not our kind. The engagement party was to be at the Grand Meridian penthouse. "Daddy knows the chairman," Serena had trilled, as if bestowing a great favor upon the venue itself. My venue, my penthouse. "Lovely choice," I'd said, my smile a perfect, unreadable mask. The invitations were a masterpiece of social pruning. The Vanderlyn side, 200 names of consequence. My side, just me. "You may bring a companion if you're uncomfortable alone," Serena had offered magnanimously. Alexander had protested. "Why can't Mom invite her friends?" Serena's sigh was a work of art. "Alexander, darling, this isn't a neighborhood barbecue. These are people with influence. We must be selective." The night arrived. I wore a column gown of emerald green silk cut by a master in Milan. My hair was a sleek twist, my jewelry a single flawless sapphire pendant that had been my grandmother's was worth more than some cars. I looked like the CEO I was. The security guard saw a woman of a certain age, alone, and made his calculation. "Catering staff this way, ma'am." Before I could correct him, the clicking of stilettos announced Serena and Eleanor gliding over like galleons in silk. "Victoria, you found us." Serena's smile was brittle. There was a tiny mix-up with the list. So silly. Eleanor's eyes swept my gown, finding it wanting. "That color is certainly vibrant, very bold for evening." Her gaze held the unspoken, too bold. "Come," Serena said, linking her arm through mine with a grip that was not friendly. "We've arranged a perfectly cozy spot for you. With all the activity in the main room, we thought you'd appreciate the quiet." She led me not into the glittering ballroom, but past it, through a discreet door, into an antechamber usually used for storing spare chairs. A single small table was set with one place setting. A lonely orchid drooped in a thin vase. It wasn't a seat, it was an exile. Through a service window I could see the party, the crystal, the laughter, my Alexander searching the crowd, his brow furrowed. My heart, which had been hardened by their slights, cracked a little for him. I took out my phone and texted 2 words to my COO, Marcus Thorne. "Penthouse, now." 3 minutes later, Marcus entered, followed by the hotel's impeccably dressed general manager, Claire. Marcus took in the scene, the closet, the solitary chair, my face, and his own went pale with fury. "Miss Laurent," Claire breathed, horrified, "who is responsible for this?" "My future in-laws," I said, my voice calm. "Please inform Mr. and Mrs. Vanderlyn that the property owner requires an immediate word regarding a severe breach of contract." The color that drained from Charles Vanderlyn's face when he entered the antechamber was deeply satisfying. Eleanor followed, her composure slipping into confusion. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" Charles boomed, playing the patriarch. "I believe the question is mine, Charles," I said, rising. "I am Victoria Laurent, founder, CEO, and majority owner of the Laurent Hospitality Group. You are standing in my property, you are drinking my champagne, and you have seated me in a storage closet." The silence was absolute, broken only by the distant pop of a champagne cork. Eleanor made a small, choking sound. You own the Laurent Group?" "Every brick," I said softly. Serena appeared then, fluttering in. "Daddy, what's—" She saw me, saw Marcus and Claire flanking me like sentinels, and her words died. "Your future mother-in-law," Charles spat, the words thick with humiliation, "owns the hotel, the company." Serena's flawless facade shattered. I didn't. Alexander said you were in hospitality. I thought—" "You thought I managed a Holiday Inn," I finished. "You assumed, and in assuming, you showed your entire hand. You didn't see a person, you saw a class, and you found it lacking." At that moment, Alexander pushed through the small crowd that had gathered at the door. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you back here?" His eyes went from my face to the pathetic table, to Serena's guilty panic. "Alexander," I said, letting the hurt I felt for him color my voice. "Serena thought I would be more comfortable away from the main party. She placed me here." The betrayal that washed over his face was the truest thing in the room. He looked at Serena, the woman he loved, and saw a stranger. "You hid my mother in a broom closet?" "It wasn't like that," she cried, tears now real. "I was trying to protect her. She wouldn't know anyone. She'd be awkward." "Awkward?" Alexander repeated, the word a poison on his tongue. He took a step back from her reaching hand. "You're ashamed of her. You're ashamed of me." He turned to me, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm so sorry, Mom." "You have nothing to be sorry for," I said, pulling him into a firm embrace. "But you have everything to think about." I turned to Claire. "Please escort me to the main ballroom. I believe I have guests to greet." Walking into the penthouse ballroom on Marcus's arm, with Alexander at my side, was a moment of pure, silent theater. The murmur of conversation died. 200 heads turned. They saw the woman they'd ignored, now flanked by the hotel's top brass, with the heir to the Vanderlyn fortune looking devastated beside her. The social seismograph went off the charts. For the remaining hour, I held court. I was gracious. I was charming. I was the undisputed sovereign of the room. The Vanderlyns fluttered on the edges, ghosts at their own feast, their social currency rendered worthless in a single evening. Alexander ended the engagement the next week. The Vanderlyns tried everything: apologies, promises, an offer to fund a wedding of unimaginable scale. But the spell was broken. Alexander had seen the rot behind the gilded facade. 8 months later, he introduced me to Lena, a landscape architect with dirt under her nails and a fierce, intelligent light in her eyes. The first thing she asked me was, "How did you navigate the commercial zoning laws for your first waterfront property?" She was interested in my mind, not my portfolio. Their wedding was held at my home, a restored farmhouse in the Hudson Valley. The laughter was real, the seats were all together, and my chair was at the very head of the table. That night at the Grand Meridian taught me the final, most valuable lesson. True character is revealed not in how you treat the powerful, but in how you treat the person you perceive to have no power. Serena Vanderlyn saw a middle-aged woman without a pedigree and deemed her expendable. She never saw the conqueror. That wasn't my failure to be seen. It was her failure to see. And when you own the building, you never, ever have to sit in the kitchen.